Welcome back. This is Philip Ickel at Legal Tyranny on June 2nd, 2021. This is continuing the statement of facts on this particular opening brief for the infraction side of my traffic case appeals. This case was consolidated with the traffic criminal case eventually, but before we get started, if you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing and also hit the thumbs up button. It's hopefully going to help me out if I'm not being shadow banned. And without further ado, let's get going. Okay, on August 16, 2018, I was put in a position of having to waive my right to a speedy trial in order to consolidate the criminal proceedings from Case 3DTC, blah blah blah, and the civil proceedings from Case 3DTI, blah blah blah. In order to reduce the stress and strain on chronic injuries and health issues that I had, the two cases stem from one event and were not kept as one proceeding by the clerk of court who created the cases. On October 25th, 2018, a hearing was held and trial was scheduled for December 7, 2018. On December 7, 2018, a hearing was held and trial de novo was continued to January 18. On January 18, 2019, the state prosecutor requested a continuance because the witness, Officer Davies, was not available. I objected and requested that all matters be dismissed with prejudice. Judge Freitas denied my objection and granted the state a continuance to February 15, 2019. On February 15, 2019, I motioned for a continuance as a result of being on medication and recovering from an anaphylactic reaction 2 days earlier. The motion was granted. The state motioned to consolidate the two cases for trial. The motion was granted. They should have done that. Of course, they weren't going to do it earlier because it would be admitting that they hadn't filed charges and that they had allowed the court clerk to set things up. Trial date was set for March 1st, 2019. You should have heard the fit that the prosecutor, Linnea Downs, threw when I asked for the continuance on these grounds. She was beside herself. She was ready to go that day, and, as if I wasn't ready to go the month before, and months before that, when they'd never filed any charges. So, I was in bad shape. I don't know if I got that video or not, but I sound very sleep deprived and heavily medicated because I had a pretty nasty reaction actually and got hives 2 days before. I've had that happen, I don't know, at least twice in the last 4 years now. Because that was 2019. I had it happen, I think, in 2018 too. I've got it all recorded for health purposes, but I'm going out on tangents. Yeah, she was a whiny little brat over that. Let's see. And she probably was like that too because she already knew the fix was in and she just wanted to get all this over with. Alright, March 1st, 2019. The trial began. Judge Freitas asked State Prosecutor Linnea Downs to arraign me. Oral charges were entered by the prosecutor. I objected on the grounds that the statute of limitations had expired for entering charges for a violation of one count of no vehicle license plate, one count of delinquent vehicle tax, one count no certificate of inspection, one count of registration not in vehicle. At no point in time up to March 1st, 2019, did the state, via a licensed attorney representing the people of the state of Hawaii, initiate prosecution of the alleged civil violations mentioned. I move for a dismissal as a result of prosecution being time barred from entering charges. Prosecutor Downs requested that the court take judicial notice of the citations written by enforcement police officer Davies as being prosecutions initiated by complaint. Judge Freitas denied my motions to dismiss, claiming that the Hawaii Rules of Penal Procedure, Rule 7, had been fulfilled. I entered a not guilty plea under duress to all charges. Trial commenced. Testimony was entered by Officer Davies and State's witness Tricia Omalau. Cross-examination was had. State Exhibit 1 was entered into evidence. They didn't even have that exhibit to give to me in advance. They gave that to me the day of the trial, if I remember correctly. Which, I mean, you're only going to get so many delay. Like, it just becomes a massive inconvenience even dealing with the court because they don't have their act together. They're not doing the things that they're supposed to do. So, up to a certain point, calling them out on everything and making it look like the mess that it is good. But then at some point, you want to be kind of efficient because you know where that train's stopping anyways. And you've got all these other things set up to use against them. Okay, so defense exhibits B, C, D, E, F, J, K, M, N were entered into evidence. Trial was continued to April 2nd or April 12th, 2019. Now, all of these exhibits, I have a list of them. I might have to make a separate short file and just give it a proper title, evidence, and let you guys go check that out separately. But basically, at least one of the things, I believe, was the letter that I've put into a video on my channel here, where it says, California Highway Patrol, we do not regulate commercial vehicles. And I entered that into the record because that was one of the, 2 documents that I gave that officer when he stopped me. When he wanted the license and registration, what he got was a passport. He got my bill of sale that I received and I had signed off and the prior owner had signed off on the truck with that vehicle, that VIN on it, because that's a special identifier that's only used for that truck. He got that. That meant he was able to run that and make sure that the truck wasn't stolen. He knew it wasn't stolen. And he got the notice from the California Highway Patrol. It doesn't matter that I've been physically here in Hawaii. I've kept my California citizenship. It requires certain actions for you to actually become a resident somewhere else, and you have to have the intent. I'm here because doctors made the recommendations after I gave them notice of how much better my tendons did in the heat when I went to Mexico or when I came here. So, it wasn't strictly, them telling me that. I knew I was going to have to move at some point, but I wanted to keep my citizenship. So that was A, and it should have actually been allowed in, and I should have argued that also in my appeal. So there's going to come times where if you go to trial, you get some things entered into evidence, some things are kept out. Certain things that are kept out might benefit you tremendously, and there's instances where they should have been allowed in. You should raise that in argument on appeal if that's one of your major issues and major supporting pieces of evidence. Just argue it there, and they'll make that decision. But you have to mention these things in the statement of facts. Okay, the record on appeal for CAAP-19. This is the Court of Intermediate Appeals in 2019, and the case number fails to reflect that I filed a written argument as ordered by Judge Harry Freitas for both cases on trial, including 3DTC and 3DTI, as mentioned above in paragraph 19. The state motioned to consolidate the two cases for trial, and this was granted. The sibling case record on appeal for CAAP 381 contains notice of this filing and a copy of this filing as described in the next paragraph. Okay, so I wouldn't have had to enter this paragraph if the clerk of court at the district court level had properly already merged these cases so that I didn't have two separate appeals to make. I mean, they completely botched this and made extra work in some instances. But again, at least for now, I took advantage of it. I was okay with it this instance around. But in the future, I'm going to make sure they consolidate this stuff. So the filing that I put in, the written argument for trial, they only took that document and sent it up to, let's see, this one. They sent it to this case, but they didn't send it to this one. And that written argument for the trial was for both. So, bringing it in through making this statement of facts here so that they have that to refer to. And again, they merged these finally at the appeals level. It might have even been the fact that I had to repeatedly say this stuff that they realized they needed to merge them. Let's see, we are at 27 minutes. I'm going to keep reading, and I'll split this into two. It's going to seem like it was one for some of you. Okay. On March 23rd, 2019, a written argument was filed by defendant appellant as Judge Freitas made it clear he did not want to have documents read to him at trial. I was reading documents into the record because I knew they weren't actually reading what I had to say, and I was hoping by reading them out loud it would force them to actually recognize that I was making, legitimate arguments that they had to deal with. Doesn't really matter, not in clown courts. This document contained the entirety of the objection on the grounds that the statute of limitations was being violated, along with other issues, such as the admission by Officer Davies that he had completed the citations against me and indicated that I was the registered owner of the automobile, yet he admitted to never being given any evidence by me or by dispatch communications that I was the registered owner. I laid out that the court lacked subject matter jurisdiction due to a failure of the prosecution to file timely charges within the statute of limitations, that there were procedural and jurisdiction violations by the state, that Hawaii Revised Statute 286-10 was in conflict with HRS 28.2, that Officer Davies violated HRS 286-10, and introduced prejudice against me, my objections to the amended charges by Prosecutor Downs, my objection to the unlawful warrantless arrest, and objections to improper applications of HRS 249-7B, HRS 286-47-3, HRS 286-25, HRS 249-2, and HRS 286-102. See sibling appellate case and this document. On April 12th, 2019, the trial was continued. No further oral argument was had. I was beat. I was completely, I had no gas in the tank at that point. And here I am, 30 years younger than the prosecutor I was against, and she was still good to go. I was the one making most of the arguments, and at the same time, again, health issues and a lack of sleep. It's hard. Okay, Judge Freitas entered findings on the record and made statements about the statute of limitations and Rule 48 period. Judge Freitas entered guilty findings for one count of no vehicle license plate, 1 count of delinquent vehicle tax, 1 count no certificate of inspection, judge Freitas dismissed with prejudice, 1 count of registration not in vehicle. Sentence was imposed. My motion to stay the sentence pending appeal was granted. Okay, we'll save the rest for later. Just a quick comment on this. Okay, so you see he dismissed this, registration not in vehicle. Well, the automobile, the Ford F-150 I have, is not registered. And I made that clear with the officer when I handed him that document. It's not registered. So obviously, you cannot have registration not in your vehicle if you haven't been issued registration. You have to have the thing first for you to be given a situation where you either put it in there where it belongs under these conditions, or you fail to put it in there as required by these conditions. But I wasn't required to do any of this because it's not registered. Hence, there's no registration to put in there. Okay, and so that goes back towards also this statute. I really need to read through these statutes for you guys too, because I don't know that I put up the video on these sections, and it's just so, the statutes are crystal clear. You have to be a registered owner. They say registered owner. In fact, in some of my arguments, I get into that. I have the Hawaii Supreme Court case State v. Gems that indicates, not having registration is actually a defense to this issue, and it's going to be a defense to this issue. Both. They both involve registered owners. So that one should have been dismissed too by the judge. I mean, it's possible the appeals court might, tell them to reverse just this, but try to still stick me with these other things. I have no clue what they're going to do. Anyways, okay, so this should be about 2 videos at this point, and if you found it interesting and useful, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and please share the channel and the videos that you think are most interesting or relevant for other people that could benefit from this. And I will catch you next time.